Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of these wonderful interview series. Today I'm talking to Gary Bashford, who is a Reiki practitioner and teacher. We're going to be talking about how we've been programmed and whether or not it's possible to deprogram ourselves. I want to find out his journey from being a businessman to being somebody who can deal with the inner workings of the mind. At least that's what I understand. So, Gary, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Thanks for inviting me.
Now, the interesting thing is, we're doing this over Zoom, but actually you live in the same town that I live in.
Yes.
I could have come round your house and done this.
I actually thought that.
Did you?
Yes.
So there you go. It just goes to show we're using the technology. But anyway,
Absolutely.
as it is, here we are. It's lovely to have you. Now, so you started off as a businessman, and you're doing something very different from what you started with.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned to me an interesting word that summed up where you used to be, and that was arrogant. So I'm very interested to hear about the journey of how you've gone from where you were to where you are, and then what you think about things like the current situation and how people can heal themselves.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I mean, probably 1998 to 2002. Like everyone's got a story. I grew up on a council estate. Blah 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 blah. I mean, everyone's got one of those stories. But from that time, I'd always been in property, estate agency, etc. And I moved into property development, and I worked very, very hard. I literally went from a 3-bedroom bungalow to a 2-bedroom flat to a bedsit and back to a 3-bedroom house during that time, with my girlfriend at the time and my daughter. So It's a bit of a journey.
Yeah.
And just as things were starting to take off, and as I had a pipeline of a roughly in option value of about £4 million. And just as things were starting to take off in 2002, bought my house and moving forward, et cetera, et cetera. My business partner of those years, he embezzled the money.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, he fraudulently he's been to prison, so he's out in the public domain. So he went to prison, and he defrauded the company of lots of. I mean, he actually I think in the paper they said something like 300 something odd grand, but it was an awful lot more than that.
How old were you at that point?
Probably 39, something like that, getting on for 40. I thought something like that. 37 maybe.
And when, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt because I don't like interrupting, but sometimes it's interesting to ask questions. I mean, you obviously, when you set up business, you trust your partner, don't you, implicitly, because why else would you do it? And so this must have affected you pretty badly. Somebody to embezzle, so much money.
Yeah, it did. Well, because what it did was it brought the business to a staggering halt. He actually went to prison for fraudulent 21 fraudulent bank transfers. 21.
21.
Yeah. So I was very, very angry. I ended up for 10 years, basically, just like we were working with the police, trying to find out all the sites. And what he had done is the money that had been made from some of the developments have gone into other accounts, and it all got very, very messy. And he'd take the money out of that to buy another site. And so we were entitled to that money because effectively that would have been a loan. He never told us, and so therefore he just took it anyway. So it got very, very, very messy. And
when something like that happens, how do you trust people again? Because your trust must have just been, snapped.
Yeah, it's difficult. But then again, you get to a point where you think, hang on a minute, like I said, the arrogance is like, well, why did that happen to me? I'm a really nice person, aren't I? Then you start to dive into yourself a little bit more and understand that things aren't quite as you see them.
Right.
I would say one of the reasons it happened, in some ways, I've actually written a book and I've actually said thank you to him in there.
Really?
Yeah, because if he hadn't done it, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Well, I suppose that's true, isn't it? Yes. But I mean,
so,
how did he respond to that?
No, I don't think we'll ever hear from him again.
No.
But what I'm
Thank you
saying,
very much, but I never want to hear from you again. Sorry, I'm doing very well now, by the way, thanks to you. Oh, how's prison food? Is it nice?
yeah, yeah. So I just think what you end up doing is start to question yourself.
Right.
Okay. And I'd met my fiance, my girlfriend, who's my wife today, and she turned around and said to me, I remember this so clearly. She said to me, "You know what you need?" Because I was having a rant and rave at the police because it took them a year to go and arrest him. And you imagine knowing someone's stolen from you.
Mm.
You're standing on the rooftop going, "Thief, thief, stop, thief, thief," and nothing, because the police are methodical. They're very, very methodical, and it took a year. And I remember on one New Year's Christmas Eve, it was the DC Bryson said, "We're going to arrest him on Christmas Eve." Yeah, and these transactions were done fraudulently through faxes, through fax machines.
Gosh, that's the old days, isn't it? Fax
Goes back
machines.
a bit, doesn't it? I told
Yeah.
you I was old.
Yeah.
Um, and so you stand there for a year. I can imagine the frustration and the anger,
Mm.
and you can't do anything about it. And I actually paid 2.5 grand to go to London, which is the biggest rip-off going, to talk to a QC, for a QC to tell me 2.5 grand. This is the advice he gave me. Oh well, see what you have here, Mr. Bashford, is a quasi partnership. I'm like, okay, what's that? And he said quasi. He says basically it means that you don't have control. He doesn't have control. He can tell you to put the kettle on, and you can tell him to naff off.
Right.
And that's what happened. I was writing to the bank saying stop the transactions, and they were going. He was going no, it's
Keep
all
them going.
okay, and they were going naff off.
So yeah, so that's a very expensive bit of advice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
It was,
and it doesn't really seem to be advice at all. It just seemed to be a statement
no.
of the obvious, I suppose, in some way.
Yeah. So after I looked at that, I started to look at myself, and it was my wife had said today, who said, she said to me, "You know what you need?" I said, "What do I need?" She goes, "You need faith." I went, "Faith, faith. What the effing hell's that?" And she just said, because she went to church when she lived in London, she said, "You need to come to church. You need to do this." I said, "Do you know what? I'll give it a go." All right. So I went up there. We went to London, went to church. And I thought, oh, this is quite nice, actually. Nice people, it's quite pleasant. And I think probably 40, 41, I got christened and baptized, thought, yeah, this is good. And then shortly after that, we asked the vicar if I said, oh, we want to get married. And he turned around and he said, oh, no, can't marry you. No. He said, give you a blessing. Can't marry you. He said, because you've been married already. And we're in a high church. And I was like, oh, okay. If that's the rules, then the rules,
Mm.
And then I started to lose the faith a little bit in the church, because what I realised was, then they actually ended up getting pulled into this whole thing about doing illegal marriages. Okay, and then suddenly they got done for this doing illegal marriages, and I thought,
What do you call illegal marriages?
well, where they were bringing people in and they were marrying people off with regards to them not being part of the church, not being part of the community, or nothing.
Oh, I see. But they wouldn't marry you.
No, because
But they would do these illegal ones.
no, because I'm soiled, you see, because I've been married before.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So what happened was you start to question that and go, okay, that's a little bit,
Yeah.
So over time, more and more things happened, and then I think the turning point was when my wife and I were on a cruise, and we went to the Vatican City, and we went to go into the Vatican, and there were all these people like on the streets, and I was like, hang on a minute, that's not right. You're in the headquarters of the church. You wouldn't have them there, And then when we went inside and saw the opulence of the what was really there, it was kind of like, no, this is not right. It's just not right. So that sent me on a journey of looking at other modalities, other churches, other.
So you're saying that the juxtaposition of the very poor right next door to the very rich, and the very rich, the opulence of the Vatican City, and they were just sort of stepping over them.
Literally. And that's not right, is it? That's
and
like
yet they preach, all the good word and stuff, and yet they're not.
Exactly. That's like, and I'm not trying to offend anyone with cars, but it's like having a Ford car on a BMW showroom forecourt. It wouldn't happen, would it? So, it
Well, it's
shouldn't.
like Boris Johnson having a party when no one else is allowed to go to a funeral.
Oh yeah, all that. I mean, yeah, that's another way of looking at it. Very good.
Thank you very much.
You've done this before.
Just
Um,
once.
and so it was just these constant
Yes.
drops, you know.
Yeah.
And eventually I was kind of like, hang on a minute. So that one's telling you, give us your money, and they've got all this gold and opulence. This one's the same. This one's the same. And then I just suddenly realized, I started to think to myself, no, this isn't, it just doesn't fit with me. And at that time, we came away from the church. And then what I started to do was my daughter bought me some meditation audios, angelic audio, meditation audios. And I started listening to them for my birthday. And it kind of like that. And then from there, through meditation, I was actually starting to get messages, but through music, which was really quite weird.
And when you say messages, you see, this is where I always get a bit stumbly because I never quite understand, because people say, "Oh, I heard something in my head," or "I this, that, and the other," and I think, "Hang on a minute." I know what a message is when I get one on my phone, and I know when someone's rung me up. So
Yeah.
So just explain what you mean by messages.
Okay. So I was brought up all around music. Okay. So I think the angelic realms look at different ways of reaching out to different people depending on who they are, so that they don't freak them out or whatever. However, that is the best way for that person to come to that person. They will come to that person. And I started getting these messages. So I'd get up in the morning and I'd have something like Pink Floyd, "Wish You Were Here." And it would just keep playing in my head, playing in my head, playing in my head. And it wouldn't stop playing until I'd gone on my phone and gone, let's have a look at the lyrics of "Wish You Were Here," you know?
Hmm.
And then look at the lyrics, and then suddenly the message is in there. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
What was the message?
I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
This is where we are right now. So if you think about "Wish You Were Here," yeah.
I don't know the particular lyrics, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I'm a bit rubbish with music, so.
I'm not going to burst into song here, Richard. Okay.
Oh, that's a shame.
No,
We get a copyright strike.
it's not X Factor, is it?
No.
So
We got Simon Cowell's going. He's pressing the button. Yeah, go on.
So if you think about, and this is where I got the word. So did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts? Now that message that come to me there was our loved ones we sent to war.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up ghosts because they got killed. Hot ashes for trees, which was the destruction, yeah, and hot air for the cool breeze. So for me, that was the politicians and all the BS, basically, the hot air that they give us just to tell us that they're going to keep us safe.
Yeah.
And they mean none of it.
No, absolutely.
So effectively, we accepted cold comfort for change. And then it says, and did you exchange your walk-on part in a war for a lead role in a cage? Powerful stuff.
Hang on, I'm still trying to interpret that. Did I exchange my walk-on part in a war for a lead part in a cage?
Yeah, which you didn't. You haven't. Yeah, because you're here doing what you're doing.
Yes.
But there's many people, yeah, with the CVID, yeah,
Yes.
or what I like to call convid, that basically did.
Yes.
They said, yeah, no, protect us, keep us protected, and we'll do exactly what you want us to do. Yeah, save us, God's sake, save us.
Yeah. I mean, they frightened the heebie-jeebies out of us, didn't they?
Well, that's what it's just come out, hasn't it, on the
that Matt bloke.
Matt, who shall not be mentioned. Yeah, so it says, okay, how I wish you were here. Okay, well, for me, I wish people were here in their heart. I wish if people come from their heart, they would have no problems in life. Okay, because we're like this through life, like a stock exchange.
Up
Yeah.
Ooh.
Whereas if we come from the heart,
Yes.
we'd be like this. Yeah. Because if you think about it, and this is the words, we're just two lost souls living in a fishbowl year after year. Running over the same old ground, have we found the same old fears? Wish you were here. And so I would get these things coming through my head.
Yes.
And I'd look at them and I'd think, this is what this is telling me, like again, Pink Floyd, the lunatics are on the grass. Well, that was to do with the in America when you want to vote for someone, and they've got those things on the grass, haven't they? Yeah.
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean? That kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
And then they were talking about the lunatics are in my hall, and that's where the papers come through the door, and it says, and every day the paper boy brings more. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
so
So
and this is
these lyrics were speaking to you, as indeed I assume that they must speak to many people. You know, people will hear a certain song and listen to the lyrics, or poetry, or
yeah,
prose, or whatever it is.
yeah,
And but you're saying these were messages because you mentioned angelic forces or angelic something or other.
yeah, absolutely. So basically, when I was in like meditation and just sitting in silence and
Mm,
breathing,
mm.
these would come in. And so I would, if I hadn't bothered to question them and just got up and gone, oh, it has a nice meditation. I'm going off down the road, walk along the
Go
beach.
down the pub now and have a
Yeah,
few bevies.
the angels would just go,
Right.
what gonna do with this guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I did decide, right, okay, I'm going to start to listen to these lyrics. So I started to listen to the lyrics, and it started to all make sense to me,
Right.
especially like where we are now.
Mm.
Yeah, right where we are now. There's some beautiful lyrics from Bob Marley, which I can tell you about. But so that's what took me on that journey. You know, I won't go reading all sorts of lyrics because I don't want you to get banned. But there is, if you think about, there's a very very powerful part of Bob Marley that says we're sick and tired of the ism schism game, which is the back and forth and the lying and all the thing. Yeah, dying and going to heaven in Jesus' name. We all know when we understand Almighty God is the living man. You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And
Yes.
then if you see the light, you stand up for your rights. That's where we are now. People are coming together. The governments are falling or falling away, and people are starting to see the light, and they're going to see the light more and more and more, especially these people. You know.
So that took all of this
Mm.
sort of so you started. Let me just recap what we know, just so I've got it into my head. So you started off as a businessman with a partner, and you were
Yeah.
quite arrogant about why you should be successful. Is that right?
Yeah.
With your
Yeah.
partner, then it all goes a bit pear shaped because he's taken the money or he's embezzled and what have you, and you're
Yeah.
really angry, and then you
Yeah.
find a bit of solace in the church, and then
Yeah.
you realise there's so full of hypocrisy there.
Yeah.
Because what? Because it's an organized religion rather than it's a true inner self experience.
It's exactly that. They are telling you in
How
what
to,
direction they want you to go,
yeah, and
and
step over those paupers on the way through the halls.
all wars is about religion.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
in,
So,
in my in my book, I turn around and say, here's a hypothesis for you. What if the Romans decided to put down their swords and
mm,
pick up the cross and go, hang on a minute, we don't need to kill everybody. Mate, we can control people a lot better with this thing.
yeah, because it whacks them on the head a lot harder.
It's just,
No,
you know,
but yeah, no, I see. So how did you get to what? So I don't really know what a Reiki practitioner is, and so this has moved you into what you're discovering your inner consciousness through meditation.
yeah.
So,
So basically,
yeah. So tell me about the Reiki part of things, because that's to do with what healing
yeah,
people. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, if you think about those last words there, that Almighty God is the living man. Yeah, and also the Bible says that we're made in the image of God. Okay.
Right.
Right. And before we were speaking, I said to you that a lot of people believe that we live inside. We live inside consciousness. Some people believe that. Some people believe consciousness is in the head. Okay.
Right.
If you can just extrapolate three things from the human body, and you can say, right, superconscious, yeah, source, conscious, me and you speaking now,
Mm-hmm.
subconscious, yeah. Basically, subconscious is the person is the conscious that is doing this, lifting this up for me. That's what that is.
Like your rational mind, where you're thinking
Rational
logically
mind.
and all of that. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
conscious. Yeah.
Everybody wants to be right. Everybody fights with their mind. It's your right. Sorry, I'm right, you're wrong. But the thing is
I'm
that
very often wrong, by the way. I'm told
yeah, no,
that. I'm told that quite a lot, so
I,
I
I,
accept that.
I already signed the contract with my wife that all the way through the marriage I will be wrong. I just
Oh,
accepted it.
yeah,
So when you get into this position, okay,
yes,
you find that, and I explain this to my grandchildren. The easiest way I know how is that the subconscious lives in the basement. It's got no windows, got no,
hmm,
can't see anything. It can only take its cues from your feelings and how you feel and how you react.
yes.
So at night time, it's putting everything away, trying to find homes for everything, and trying to make sense of this, what's gone on in the day through what the conscious mind has said. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So is that like when you're dreaming and things like
Yeah.
that, or yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's sort of
So
filing stuff away that's been in like a RAM memory,
yeah,
temporary memory, and then it's
exactly.
going right. We'll file this into the hard drive, as it
Yeah.
were.
We are mega computers.
Right.
Yeah. If you think about it, the Matrix. Yeah. Um, that was a documentary, by the way. But that Matrix, it referred to us as batteries. That's what it was referring to us as a battery.
I haven't actually seen. I haven't said. I'm not really into science fiction, so I haven't really.
Yeah,
Everyone refers to the Matrix, and then I'm
yeah.
sitting here going, "Oh yes, I know what you mean," but I haven't
Oh, yeah.
bloody clue. I haven't a clue. I've
No.
never seen it.
Well, admire your honesty. But the thing is that we are a powerhouse, right? And
Yeah.
the government's never wanted us to know that we are the powerhouse. They never needed. They didn't want us to know that because they can't control that. Okay.
So let me just unpack that a bit because part of my job is to interpret for listeners who might be watching, and viewers, of course, who might be watching, what you mean by certain things, because I'm also trying to understand it myself. So when you're saying a battery, you're not like literally saying like a double A battery that you put into a thing. So what do you mean by battery?
When
And then tell me what you mean by the government don't want us to know
when
that
you
we're
when you when you when you hold your skin,
yeah.
yeah, it's just it's just something that keeps all the energy inside. It's only something to keep the energy inside. So we are actually just massive balls of energy, and the only thing that constrains us is the bodysuit.
And the energy is from what? The heart pumping.
The energy is from source. The energy is from the superconscious coming straight the way down through us,
Right.
going all the way through our chakras, all the way from literally crown, third, throat, heart, solar plexus, sacral, root.
Right. Okay.
And it's connecting us, and it connects us to the earth. Okay, it gives us that connection to God, right? So the whole idea of it is that they didn't ever want people to know that you can go outside and be in your own place to talk to your superconscious. They didn't want you to know that because it's much better for them to say, no, 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 you must be a Christian, you must be a Muslim, because those things are all put against one another. And that's why we've been fighting for, well, longer than I've been on the, well, this time around, been on the planet. Um, so the thing is that the spirit, this body will die, yeah, but spirit doesn't die. Spirit doesn't die. Spirit just goes, is infinite. And so effectively, when people, sometimes you might have spoken to people, they go, oh yeah, yeah, I've been here 3, 4, 5 times. They're just talking about the times that they've just reincarnated on here. Well, if spirit is eternal, then we can't die, which means this energy source within inside us is been given to us, yeah, by source, by creator.
Right. Okay. Now let me. Sorry, I'm just going to go back because I'm aware that people will be watching this. Some people will completely understand what you're on about, but I'm also interested in trying to bring people on the journey with us, and they're not getting lost, because I think there's concepts there that you're saying, and you live and breathe this, that you know it so incredibly well, that people are going, I don't really get it. The superconscious, what's that? The subconscious, you sort of explained, was down in the basement trying to assess things out, but why? And then the conscious, as you said, was the rational thought of doing things every day. So we've got energy going on, which is not that just the energy of the body pumping, blood pumping around in the heart and that energy. You're talking about a spiritual energy that's coming through the superconscious. Is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah,
Into the body.
yeah.
For what does it do? I mean, it's coming in
So
to
so when you're talking, so when you're in prayer, then effectively you're you're getting downloads as to where and what you should be doing. When you're in that place, you've got to get in that place, because the thing is that
what places? What
every
places?
everybody lives in a distraction. So you've got to
Right,
get away from that and get into like not being in a distracted place. And by that I mean through meditation,
right. Okay.
calm, through calming your mind and your breathing. Yeah, you can get
Yeah.
into your heart, and then what you can do is you can navigate all the problems that are going on in the world if you go through your heart. If you speak to your heart and say, okay, which way should I be going here?
When you say your heart, sorry, I keep interrupting. I really
That's
don't want
fine.
to be, but when you say heart, you're not talking about your literal heart, are you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
Oh, you are. Okay,
yeah.
okay. Or it's not going through your. I mean, we haven't used the word soul, so I don't. So I'm just trying to sort of really make it very obvious to somebody who'd never heard these
Okay,
terms before.
right. So on the planet,
Yeah.
there's a vibration. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
we all vibrate at a certain level.
Okay.
So fear and anxiety and all of these things, they all vibrate at a vibration of around about anything from sort of like 120 to 300. They all, so that means if you're in that vibration, you're going to be in fear, which is where the government had us with this.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had us in that vibration. Yeah, love is the highest vibration you can get. It's the very, very highest. It actually enables you to manifest, and I have manifested as well. I've done it myself. Okay, so I know it works. So, but love.
You're going to have to in a minute, not yet. You're going to have to explain what you mean by manifest,
Oh, I
because
will. Yeah,
but
yeah,
so okay, so there's this vibration that fear and stuff is, and then presumably if you're in a more less tense, and as you say, as you get to a more loving, and
yeah.
you're not just, I'm assuming you're not just referring to the love of a partner,
No,
like like
no,
I would love my girlfriend and go, yeah, no, I really love her, and I love my children.
no.
I don't necessarily love the noisy neighbour across the street who
Yeah,
bashes the bins down at 3 in the
no.
morning that wakes me up. I don't
You,
so much love him.
no, love for yourself. You can't love others until you fill up your own cup first. You have to fill up your own cup first. So once you fill up your own cup, then your cup can overflow and you can love others. See, people get that wrong. They look in a mirror and they go, "Oh, I've got to change my face and I've got to do this and I've got to do that." And it's all that, but it's all that's all outside.
Mm.
Yeah, people change the outside. So the inside is rotten as a pear, which is what I would say my ex-wife was, right? Rotten as a pear, but look very nice on the outside. Yeah. So you have to get into here, and people don't understand because we live in a world of consumerism.
Yes.
So people believe that they can buy their way out of whatever it is that they don't feel that is helping them in their life, and you can't. You have to come from here. So once you do come from here, which is when you raise your vibration and you get up to a point of knowing, okay, then when you're at a point of knowing, you can actually go, you can ask the question. Someone said to me, "Oh, there's a conspiracy theorist about this." Hang on a minute, how do I feel about that? And get the answer and go in the right direction instead of just keep like a ping pong ball, bouncing around from this theory to that theory to this theory to that theory. There are so many people out there, um, and opinions are like noses. Everyone's got one. But what you've got to do is get into your
Oh
heart.
God.
Yeah, yeah. What
Got
you've got
on.
to do is get into your heart, and you've just got to stay there. And if you stay there, okay, which isn't easy to do, it really isn't. Um, the other day, someone said something on something I was watching, and they turned around. I don't watch a TV, okay, but they turned around and they said, "Check yourself before you wreck yourself." And I thought, what a great saying. If everybody just kind of thought, hang on a minute, what's coming out of my mouth, is that um Is that where
Think before you speak. I mean, that's what my
So,
parents used to say. You know, Richard,
yeah,
just think before you speak.
yeah.
And in fact, many of my viewers say that to me too. Think before you speak, and I do try.
That is really, that's really what it's about.
Mm,
And spiritual or spirituality, call it what you will.
mm.
That's your journey. That's for you. It's not for me. It's
So
you
okay,
go on your
so I want to get onto I want to get onto this manifestation thing because we spoke to
yeah
a lady yesterday, a very
yeah
nice lady in Canada,
yeah
who was into metaphysics. And I don't know if this is a similar sort of thing, but it's pretty much the same sort of thing. She says you've got to be able to look in the mirror and love yourself.
yeah
And sometimes I'm deliberately trying to interpret from the audience's point of view whether I think they've got all the terms and things. So
yeah.
I don't mean to be obtuse in the things that I'm saying.
No.
So, but before we get onto the manifestation of things, because she talked a bit about that, how does this philosophy or whatever the spirituality, how does it work when you've got children, they're running around, they're causing you chaos, you haven't got any money, the government are wanting you to do, pay your council tax, you're behind on this, you're desperately looking for another job because the job you've got is not paying, you're in a difficult situation. And to a lot of people, I would hazard a guess that even entertaining the idea of stopping for a moment and trying to sort of find your love and all the things that you've described would be quite alien, because they would go, I can't, the bloody kids are screaming, I've got to go and do this, and then I've got to go and work at the chip shop for nothing an hour, and just trying to make headway. And then there's this bloke on the internet talking to this other bald twit, and they're saying, oh, you just got to raise your vibration and you can manifest. How do you address people who are in what I would call, the real world, if you like, who are struggling and may think this is just sort of nonsense,
too far away from their reality? Well, the first thing that you can always do is just get yourself out into nature. And anyone can do that.
Yeah.
Anyone can get themselves out into nature. Okay, so even if they're busy mums, busy dads, whatever, they can still get themselves out into nature. Even at lunchtime, instead of sitting in the office eating the sandwiches, they can go out and sit somewhere in nature, and take that time. The other thing they can do is they can switch their phone off. Okay, they can take control of their life instead of their life controlling them. And that's what's happening. Their life is controlling them from the time they get up to the time they go to bed at night. Their life controls them. When I get up in the morning, from the time I get up to the time I go to bed, I control my life. It's just a different flip. It's just a flip on and you have to do it slowly. You can't suddenly sit down and go, right, that's it. Yeah, I'm going to meditate for 15 minutes. You can't. You have to find 5 minutes just to sit quietly and go. And you know where the best place to do that? The bath. In the bath. Just lay in the bath.
I get some of my best ideas in the bath.
That's another show.
It is another show. I wouldn't broadcast that one. Phobes in the bath.
But you just literally, because it comes back to here. Until you can love yourself here,
right,
you can't move forward. So you've got to turn around and go, hang on a minute, something's not working in my life. So I'm going to start from here, and then move out from there. And I know it's difficult.
So are you saying? So I mean, those people who are busy and they feel like everything's on top of them, and they're desperately on that hamster wheel, running as fast as they can, and they feel they just can't run any faster, but they feel that that's what they have to do. You're saying what you need to do is for a few moments in the day is just come away from that hamster wheel and all the distractions of your phone, the telly, the kids, and everything else, to just tune yourself back to. Just have just calm, and then if you continue to do that, you start to feel differently, and you may be getting messages, as you said, or inspiration, perhaps you might call it like that, to try something else that will help put more order into your life. And the things that seem to be monstrous all around you start to shift a little bit. until eventually they're not quite, suddenly a job might appear that actually, oh, I never saw that before. And you
Exactly.
do, and it might be the kind of job you really want to do.
Yeah. So what happens is, because you don't take time
Mm,
out,
mm,
then your conscious mind and your subconscious mind think, no, he's fine. He's fine on that treadmill. He's fine.
yeah.
If you took time out, the universe would start to move, would start to move things in your favor, and start to change the way that your life is constructed during the course of that day. And then suddenly you'll find yourself with that extra time. But you've got to ask for the extra time first. In your mind, in your heart, you've got to say, oh, I need some time for me.
Mm,
Yeah. And even if you turn around and say, right, I need some time for me, and I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it when I have a bath, right? Then you've started, at least you started.
yes.
Yeah. And
Okay.
you just slowly build. You've got to slowly build on that. But the biggest thing for the biggest results, I definitely think, is to get out in nature.
Yeah, I know. I would agree. I mean, my whole channel used to be about walking about in
Yeah.
heritage and nature,
Yeah.
and here am I now, more inside than ever. And I think, what's going on? And yet my viewing figures are much higher,
Yeah.
and I'm able to actually pay my way a little bit
Yeah.
by not being out in nature. So there's a sort of conflict there. Although as we get into the spring, I'm going to be doing more of that anyway.
Yeah.
So let's go. Let's just go. Just touch on this manifestation, because I'm aware that time is ticking by, and these can go very quickly. And then I want to talk about how we've been programmed. I mean, maybe we've been saying this, that we've been programmed, and then we're going to deprogram. But just first of all, just tell us about the manifestation, because it sounds from the outside, if you're completely new to this,
Yeah.
as if it's like magic spells.
Right. I didn't realize I'd done it, until I was 35. Right. So maybe 36. But what happened is, when I was 14, I saw a BMW 323i drive down a place in Littlehampton called Clun Road. And I said to my mate David, I said, I'm going to have one of those one day. I am going to have one of those. And he fell off his bike laughing. Right. We were only 14.
Yeah.
And we had this big long joke going on then for forever. And then literally, when he was like 15, I think it was, 15, he bought me a dinky toy, right? Like what do you got?
Like a corgi or a matchbox.
Matchbox, right? And he said, that's as close as you're going to get to that car, right? And I said, don't take the mick. I said, I'm telling you, I'm going to have one of those before I'm 30, right? And he turned around and he said to me, it was a big joke. Everyone laughed at me, right?
Mm.
And then he then left to live in Wales with his mum and dad, and I gave him the car and said, don't forget me, mate. Let's stay friends and that. And he took the car, right? I gave it back to him as he got on the train. And then during the years, big laugh at Gary, he's a nutter, right? And then one day I drove up to Swansea in my car, and I got out of my car, and David turned around and said, well, he swore, first of all. And he said, stay there. And I was standing on the doorstep. I said, well, this is nice, isn't it, Dave? I've driven all this way and you've run up the stairs. And he came back with this battered corgi car, right? And I turned around and said, he said, do you remember that? I said, remember it? I said, what have you done to it? The doors are hanging off, the plastic's... And he said, shut up, turn round. And I went, what? He said, turn round. And I turned round, and I'd driven up to Wales in a crimson red, cream leather BMW 323i.
Same as that little matchbox.
Identical to that little matchbox. And he said to me, because before he said turn around, he said to me, it only took you like 5 more years than what you said, or something like that. And then he said, turn around. And I'd driven up there in exactly that car. Okay. So I actually manifested that car at 14. And the only way I know that I could have manifested that is because, with all of my heart at the time, I said I was going to have that car. Yeah. So the thing that stopped it coming to me is because I put a time limit on it.
Oh, see. So if you'd said, I'll have it next week.
Well, I wouldn't have been able to drive then.
No, that's true.
But you know what I mean? So that's it. So the universe is always trying to move things to your favor. But you keep messing it up because you keep asking. You don't get your message clear of what you do really want. Yeah, be very careful, by the way, for viewers out there. because you think you want something like $1 million or £2 million or whatever. Well, you just think very, very carefully about what it is you genuinely want, and you can't ask for something from the universe because you just want it. It's got to have some kind of a I've realised that now. It's got to have some kind of a benefit for others.
So what was the benefit of that BMW then?
Well, BMW was what obviously I wanted, wasn't it? I
Yeah, but
mean,
you just said you can't just ask it because you wanted it, and
I've
bang,
realised.
there it is.
Yeah, but that's the arrogance of that property developer, wasn't it? Because
Right.
I've now realised, yeah, that if you're going to ask for something that's going to be a benefit for everybody, not just for yourself.
Right. And the warning you gave there just reminded me of the sort of the old Midas touch, where the man was turned into everything he touched turned into gold,
Yeah.
including his wife and children.
Mm.
You know, at first it was great. Oh, look, there's a gold cup, and oh, there's a gold microphone, and hello, girlfriend. Oh, blimey, now you're gold.
Yeah.
And then that's, becomes too much. So you're saying that sometimes you can ask for stuff that you think you want, but actually could have a detrimental effect because you've not thought about it more clearly. Is that what you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why you should always be careful, because it does. People say be careful for what you wish for,
Yeah.
because you just might get it.
Right. So there might be people watching who have gone through all of this, and they understand the sort of quieting down and all of that. But I often hear people saying similar things. But they say you can do it for other people, but you can never use the power to enhance yourself and make money for yourself, or buy yourself a car, or whatever it might be. So how does that work? Because that's something else. Is that just someone lying to me saying
No, you can manifest. You can manifest for yourself,
mm,
but you shouldn't really. You should really manifest for the benefit of others.
mm,
So you can ask for something that you just really, really want.
mm.
We manifested this cup, right? That's out here. But
Oh yes, very nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. But we did. But the thing is that so you can, but you shouldn't. Do you see what I mean? There's kind of like when you realise, when you get here, you realise
Yeah.
actually, if I can manifest anything in the world, I shouldn't just be manifesting stuff for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I should be manifesting stuff for other people. Maybe to try and help those people that are on that wheel
Mm.
get off the wheel to get into their heart.
So do you think people like Bill Gates are manifesting stuff that's of benefit to other people?
Please don't go there. I mean, he's just a monster, isn't he? I mean. Yeah.
But I mean, clearly it can be, presumably then you could be using it for the wrong purposes. Let's just say that.
Yeah, you
No.
can. Yeah, you can. People can manifest stuff for good and bad. That's the other
Right.
thing that you have to remember as well.
Yeah.
People can call something in that will harm people, and people can call something to be white, or they can be black. You have that choice. We have free will, remember?
Mm.
Yeah. So you can manifest whatever you like. But if enough of us come together through here, and
Mm.
and as we pray or as we meditate, we generate this light, this white light. We take back our power. People, yeah, that's the thing people don't realize, and that's where I say we're energy, we're batteries, because we can literally energize ourselves to actually be able to do that. You know, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, it does. I just wonder why people aren't doing it. I mean, if it's so wonderful that we, this is not sort of, we didn't just discover it last week. Presumably,
If
this is ancient knowledge.
Yeah, because I think the reason people don't bother doing it is because they're on that treadmill. They're just stuck on that treadmill, and
Hmm.
they're just worried about what's going to happen. How am I going to do this? And they're just living in that constant fear like this all the time,
Right.
all the time. So
Because
they can't see over the they can't see.
I often see these videos in which they say things, and I'm always a bit skeptical when I see it, and they say things, the occulted knowledge that no one has ever heard of. It's been secret for a millennia. No one knows that you can create. And it's a sort of similar stuff. And you think, yeah, but if people could do this, it would go like rapid fire.
It's
because
going to.
because it's just like if somebody said, just think if you could materialize a pound in your hand, let's say, if someone could do that, people going, I can materialise a pound. I wonder if I can do £2. Oh, I've done a fiver. All I'm saying is that, and that's not a very good example. So scrub that.
Okay, here's
But
an example. Here's an example of Reiki. Okay,
mm,
why is it that I can send healing
mm,
to a person
mm.
in North America from here?
And you're not talking about by post.
No. Why
Just
can I do it? Why can I send that healing? And if you go on the website and read the reviews, yeah, they're there, right?
mm.
You're sending a channel, an energy channel, and you're sending that energy to that person, and you're focusing. It's not even me. I'm just the channel.
Mm.
That, and then the energies that come from the superconscious is what's channeled to that person. And you tell me, how can you send energy from here to America?
Well, you tell me how, because I haven't a bloody clue.
Because we're very, very powerful. We've always been powerful. We've always been able to do all of these things. But we've been told that we can't. We're not.
So
And
when
so
you see these
we
things of
believe that
ancient
we're not.
civilizations, you know, these ancient like the Great Pyramid of, I mean, I was reading something about that, and they were saying, oh, the latest ideas are that there was a super race at one point who were
Yeah,
using levitation. They could,
yeah,
because the idea of man being able to, even today, with cranes and the sophisticated equipment, we could not do it to the same exactitude that they have done it, which with all the mathematical accuracy and everything else
yeah.
that they now are discovering of it. And you think, okay, that's and and then they were saying, oh well, it was slaves, and you think, well, slaves get sloppy, and anybody is like, oh, I can't, no one's looking, we'll just shove it over there a bit.
Yeah.
And they're saying it can't be slaves, so they didn't have
No.
slaves. It was different ways of doing things. So it's a lot. So this thing about many years ago, the lost, and all of that is actually because we've been kept down. And as
Yes.
you said before, we've been programmed to think one way,
Yeah.
and you're saying now we can get deep
Yeah. If you
programmed.
if you want to know the truth, watch the news, turn it upside down. You get the truth. That's it. It's so simple. People don't need to live in a. They don't need to live in fear.
Mm.
If you just listen to the news, turn it upside down. That's all you've got to do. Because everything in this world is inverted. Everything in this world is inverted. So they tell you can't do something, you bet on dollar, you can do it. And as I said, my example of that is sending Reiki healing to somebody in America. How is that even possible? But it is possible. And so sometimes you have to turn around and say, well, you know what? I'm not going to question it.
Mm.
I'm just going to be grateful for having it and being able to do it. Yeah. But we
Well, I
have to.
suppose that, I mean, you're right. I mean, we've been brought up in a very sceptical world, haven't you? I mean,
Yeah.
I know a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, who will walk into a room and say it's very heavy in here. There's an atmosphere, and I'll walk in
Yeah.
there and go, "What are you talking about? I can't feel a thing."
Yeah.
And then the other day I was reading a book, a very interesting book, and I hope to interview the author very soon. And he was in that he was saying, have you ever thought about talking if your parents have died? Have you ever thought about talking to them? And I thought, well, I have thought about it, and I've tried it, but it's never happened. And I often, would say, "Here, Mum, are you here? Dad, are you around?" But they never turn up. It's very easy to become skeptical because the world around, I suppose our expectations are so quick. We expect things to happen so rapidly
Okay.
that you can very easily go, all right, my partner's got a headache. Hang on, I'm going to send you Vobes vibes so that you get rid of the headache. And, you're thinking it, and they get, has it gone? No.
You know
Have a
what?
paracetamol.
I would coin that
Vobes vibes.
But okay, so imagine when I do Reiki and I lay hands upon, or not upon someone, but over
Just
them.
over them.
Yeah. So you don't touch them; you just hold their hands above them.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing there,
Mm.
okay, and they haven't said to me necessarily what's wrong. They've just turned around and said that they're low in vibration, etc. And I'm gonna let source tell me, okay. So as I'm standing there, I get a pain sort of in my shoulder, right? I get a little tingling in my shoulder. So my mind will go, right, okay, let's get that resolved, and then I will feel that go, right?
The pain in your shoulder is correlated to this. Yeah,
Correlated to them.
yeah.
So I'm holding the space. That's all I'm doing. I'm holding that space for the superconscious to come down and do what they need to do. And then the thing is that will go, okay? But because they haven't dealt with what lies underneath that, which is what we were talking about, the interior and the exterior, maybe 6, 7, 8 months later, that will come back. That will come back, and they just ring me up and say, "Oh, can you fix me again?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I can, but I prefer you to fix yourself."
But you can do that over the phone.
You can lay hands on people that come
Yes.
and have an appointment, and you can do it via distant Reiki.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is get the permission, and I know this for a fact. So all you have to do is get the permission from the person's superconscious that to allow that to happen. You can't just go, right, okay, yeah, I'm going to send you this, and then you say, well, I don't want it. So you can't do that.
Right.
Well, that happened with me when I was learning Reiki. So my teacher turned around and said to me, right, we're going to do this distant healing now. I want you to think of someone that you'd like to send Reiki to. My wife was there. She said, well, I'll send it to Chris because Chris has got Parkinson's. I said, okay, I'll send it to my mum. Come out of this session and I was crying, right? And the teacher said to me, what's the matter? I said, well, I tried to send it, but I got a message back saying I can't send it. And she turned around and she goes, well, did you tell your mum you would be sending it? I said, no, of course not. I said, just thought I'd send it to her. She went, you can't. So then I went back and told my mum that story. And when I told my mum, and then next time I did the training again, I went back and I was able to send the Reiki to my mum. And I told my mum at the time I was going to send it. And my mum said, oh no, I've received that. But she wouldn't.
I see. So they got to know in advance.
Got to know, and yeah, you can't. It's a free will. It's free. We've got free will, and we've got free will to choose. And
so, if you were trying to help a dementia patient, and they couldn't conceive anything. Like I'm just thinking about when I looked after my dad, I would have done anything to have made him less demented at the time and made life a lot easier for him. But if I'd said to him, "Okay, Dad," and he would just look at me very blankly, and I'd say, "I'm going to send you some Reiki." And he would have said, "Oh, just shove it in the fridge. I'll have it later." It would have been difficult to do that then.
Yeah.
Even with Vobes vibes.
Yeah, you have to have somebody that's willing to accept it,
right,
and wants to receive it.
Yeah.
And then once they want to receive it, then they can receive it. So that's where people get like slightly lost because they think, well, you can just send it to anyone, can't you? No, you can't. Because your free will, their free will is just as important as your free will. Nobody is either above you or below you. You can't make that judgment. So, but the other thing is, as I said, you can't fix the actual problem, deep rooted problem, unless you can deprogram. And that's what we realized during COVID, right? I don't know if I said, sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but CVID.
It's all right, you can say COVID. They don't, it's a thing. It's a thing. It's in the public domain. All right. So not worried.
So that's what came to us during that time, because we realised that actually, if you think about it, it took 90 days of Boris being on there every day, clap for the NHS, out there, save people's lives, and all the other things. It took 90 days, and in those 90 days, now you can still walk up to someone and they will stay 2 meters away from you.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've been programmed by it, that thing. Yeah, absolutely. I get that.
So my wife and I thought, well, hang on a minute. If you can program people for the worst, surely you can program people for the better.
Yes.
So we started bringing out these audios whereby, because I did a lot of research on the subconscious and the conscious, and so what we did was brought out these audios whereby we lay positive affirmations underneath the music. So the conscious mind is listening to the music, thinking, oh, it's very pleasant, waves, inworthing, right?
Bit of Sex Pistols, is it? Something like
that? Not quite. But underneath that, is a affirmation.
Right.
And that affirmation is basically then been designed for argument's sake, someone that wants to try and they want to try and become more confident. Yeah. So the affirmations that are laid underneath that is that
Mm.
you're beautiful, you are confident, you are love, you are this, you are that. And so the subconscious mind is listening and thinking, what is that? And it wants to work it out because it has to work everything out. Because don't forget, it deals with 90% of everything.
Mm.
So what happens is over a 21-day period, that subconscious mind has come round to the fact that it's worked out what that is and it's taking it on board into the conscious. So suddenly you flip the whole thing over. So suddenly now, where you weren't feeling confident and you didn't feel love and you had anxiety and all these other things, they're gone.
So this
They,
is like a sort of hypnosis, self-hypnosis type
it's
thing.
kind of like I call it
Mm.
subliminal conscious, because the thing is that I guess hypnosis is similar to that. But the thing is that you're not getting into the whole kind of you're not getting into that whole kind of hypnosis vibe. I think all you're doing is you're impressing the conscious mind, yeah, for enough over a period of time for the conscious mind to actually turn around and say, do you know what? The first two, three times, the conscious mind going, on your bike, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Mm.
I've never done that and I'm not doing it now. And it fights you. But if you constantly listen to it, and the beautiful thing about subliminals is you can listen to them as you sleep and they still go into your subconscious mind. So you don't even have to be, like you said earlier, oh, well, whenever you've got time to find to do this and do
Right. So I'm just a bit confused because
that.
you're saying it's the conscious mind that's fighting. It's not the subconscious mind.
Mm. Sorry, subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is fighting because
Right.
the subconscious mind believes it knows what's best for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you've trained it that way through
Well,
years, or the not you, but the outside world has trained you that way, and so
because we've been trained that way. Yeah.
yeah. So you're suggesting something different, and it's going no. Well, that doesn't compute because of
Yeah.
the world is like this. I get that, and so
Yeah.
that you're basically convincing the subconscious mind that actually you've got the power. It's all nice. You can be loving to
Yeah.
yourself and to others,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
so then once you've grown that new realization of things, and you're presumably now your conscious and your subconscious are in tune with each other.
Exactly. Then you
That's
can get
going to
into
yeah.
here.
Then you can get into here, and you can. We got there. We got there. So these tapes, so people can download these. Well, they're not physical tapes, are they? Like in the old
No,
days,
they're download
these
audios. Yeah.
download audio. They can get them from you, can they, on your website?
Yeah, so we create collections. So one's called Detox in the Mind. So we've got one for detox in the mind. We've got one for like mental health for people that have really got the anxieties and stuff like that. We've got one for that. And you just download it and you can just try it. Just try it. I mean, I actually have written the book, as I said,
Mm.
and the ones I've done are that I've got for my book are all the chakras. And when somebody purchases the book, I actually send them the root chakra audio for free because
Fantastic.
I
So
want people to get
I'll
it.
put your website in the description.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I'll have
Mm.
to get it from you afterwards. And also, is your book on online where people can get hold of it?
So it's on at so it's spiritually awoken. So it's spiritually-awoken.com. Okay.
Right. Okay. So you
And
can get it all through your website, which is even better.
everything comes through the website.
Yeah.
The one thing I would like to say though is
Mm.
that one of the things that we're really passionate about, both Heidi and I, because Heidi's trained Reiki level 1 and I'm obviously level 4. But what we really, really are trying to do, and this is for locals, and this is how I got to meet that great group last night, which was the Freedom Worthing Freedom Hub. What we're trying to do is on the 3rd of April we have a online Reiki healing going on, and that online Reiki healing is actually I've got 3 or 4 Reiki people coming to hold the space, and then the people that need the healing will then receive the downloads and everything else, and that's on the 3rd of April. And we're doing that. So I'll send you the link to that as well, because I want people to get into here and then start healing themselves, not keep,
Not
isn't
yeah.
it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the more people can take back control and take the responsibility for. I know this is something,
Yeah,
a message that I've not in the way that you've articulated it, but I
yeah,
just feel that people have outsourced most of their life and responsibility to governments, to
yeah,
officials, and everybody else. Whereas and and television has been a huge part of that. Whereas if we
Yeah.
can take back our responsibility for how we feel about things,
Yeah.
how we feel about ourselves, and the things that we do in our lives, then we've got a chance of actually having a much more pleasant experience in life,
Yeah.
and not at the mercy of all these people who are bringing in these
Yeah.
terrible things.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying to you about the TV. That's why because you're taking all your time and effort,
Mm,
your choice, your free will to sit there and watch all these programs
mm,
that are talking about all the negative stuff and everything else, and you're keeping yourself in that complete low vibration. When are you going to start to love yourself? And
mm.
then when you start to love yourself, you start to realize that, hang on a minute, there's a few things I've got to get sorted out in here before I can really feel the benefit of it. And that's really where we want to try and take people, because we're going to create this online group, which means that people can talk offline.
Yeah.
And we want to then build out individual groups for, like, so we've got, like, at the moment seven or eight people just for Parkinson's. So that means we're just focusing on that Parkinson's, and we're just send that healing for those people for the Parkinson's, and then we'll start building out the other groups. But right now it's just this one we're just kicking off with. But one of the messages I did get, I'll give you one of them. I don't know if you remember it. Why don't you? Do you remember why don't you?
What, on the telly? Why don't you switch off your television and do something less boring instead? Never heard of it.
Sitting at home, watch TV, turn it
Yeah,
off. It's no good to me. That's
yeah,
another one I got as well. Yeah. So that was in my very early times when I was, like, probably not doing that, and I
yeah.
kept getting it, and I was thinking, and my wife was like, "Why are you whistling that?" And then I was suddenly like, "Yeah, actually, do you know what? That's a load of crap."
Yeah.
And then I switched the telly off. So in a way, I suppose you could say superconscious has been programming me to do
What you're
those
doing.
things.
Listen, we've sort of run out of time because I don't like these
No
going on
problem.
for longer than an hour.
That's fine.
I think hopefully we've had a deep dive into Reiki, what it is, your journey in it, and the fact that we need
Definitely.
to start thinking differently about life and everything,
Yeah, definitely.
focusing in on ourselves, loving ourselves, and maybe manifesting some good things, not just for us, but for other people. And you have your website, which I shall link in the description, which I'll get you to give me again in a minute once we finish. And people can then find out more about what you do and
Yeah,
how they can
sure.
get involved and all of that. That's
Yeah.
really, thank you so much, because I'm doing a number of these things where it's all slightly different. People are talking about it in the same way, but it seems to me it's very much the same message about getting yourself in order first so that you can get the rest of the world in order, and dispelling fear, which seems to be what we've been given,
It's the
which has
biggest thing.
really kept us down, and trying to sort of stay positive, and that way we should be pushing back the likes of these rather nasty psychopathic people who think they run the world but really don't.
You've hit the nail on the head. Yeah, absolutely, Richard. That's exactly what we need to do.
Brilliant.
So,
Well, Gary, thank you so much for joining me today. That's been really interesting, and I hope that people get something out of this, and that they go onto your website to find out a lot more.
thank you very much.
So there you are,
My
ladies and
pleasure.
gentlemen, an interesting introduction to Reiki, which I found absolutely fantastic and interesting. I hope you did too. I will be back with some more of these interviews on all sorts of weird and interesting subjects. So do join me then. But in the meantime, from Gary and I, goodbye.